Hi everyone, it's Don and I hope you're having a fantastic news. Well, we have some really bad news coming out of Seattle. We also have a weather warning in effect as a tropical storm turns into a hurricane. Also, I have a story at the end here that I want to tell you about because I couldn't believe this happened. But yeah, somebody was arrested and you won't believe why they were arrested. Stay tuned for that. That's coming up in a minute. But first off, let's talk about the unfortunate accident in Seattle. We have a float plane that went missing on Sunday. Eyewitness reports say that it went down in Mutiny Bay, which is about 30 miles outside of Seattle. It's a very popular float plane destination, you know, to head down and see the coast and everything. Unfortunately, the plane reports were down that it nosedived into the water, according to eyewitnesses. The Coast Guard went out and searched the area. They literally have found hardly anything. Unfortunately, one person was recovered, passed away, and 9 others are missing. The search has been called off. They had divers out, they had boats out. They failed to find any other debris or any other passengers. It just seems kind of odd if they had eyewitnesses aware it went down, that something, you know, the tides must be pretty strong in that area, and it's a very, very sad news. I'm not going to say the name of the float plane company because by all accounts, that float plane company is a privately owned, family-run, small, close-knit group. They're going through a very rough time right now as well. It's a member of their family, if you will, that's gone and missing as well. And I don't want to drag their name through the mud because by all accounts, they've had a spotless record for over 30 years of doing these kind of trips. It's just an unfortunate accident, and I don't think we should, you know, say company names like that because people, I'm going to avoid that one because that one's probably better. It's unfortunately just things can happen. So our condolences go out to friends and family of anyone missing, and just remember, things happen, folks. So now also something to be aware of off the California coast and Mexico coast down near Cabo San Lucas is Tropical Storm K has now turned into a hurricane. It's now, the good news is it's likely not to affect too much of California other than heavy rain. It's expected to curve along the coast and then back out to sea before it, you know, disperses. But it will affect cruise ships. Cruise ships perhaps coming or heading to Panama Canal or heading down to Cabo San Lucas, very popular destinations for, you know, out of Long Beach, out of LA. And so those cruises could be affected any day now. So if you have a cruise coming up on one of those, keep an eye out on it because the storm is pretty strong right now and the cruise lines probably are going to avoid it at all costs, which is the smart move. You never want to sail into a hurricane. Yeah, so keep an eye on your cruise if you have one coming up in the next 5 to 6 days out of LA. Okay, now that crazy story, but before I get there, you're going to want to, it's a weird one, but before I get there, let me just invite you to hit that subscribe button so you can keep up to date with all things cruising, like hurricanes that could affect your cruise, protocols that could affect your cruise, what cruises have vaccines, what cruise don't require all things cruising, including the new ships coming out and all the shore excursions and fun things to do on a cruise ship, and even once in a while some tips and tricks on how to save you money and make your cruise experience the best I can make it. Well, as close as I can anyway, without paying for it myself. Yeah, it doesn't cost anything, and again, I really do appreciate it. It really does help the channel out if you subscribe. Okay, all right. A person just went into court because they had the Coast Guard and security were doing a search on the ships. Just a random search like they sometimes do in foreign countries. And they decided to search this one gentleman's cabin. He's a 20-year-old gentleman. And they found a bullet. They found a bullet in his stateroom. Not a gun, not a bomb, a bullet. Well, he was charged and ended up being arrested and had to show up in court. I could see if he had a gun on board, but a random bullet? I mean, people put bullets on chains, on rings, and apparently it was just a bullet in a bag at the bottom of one of his luggages. But he was arrested and charged. Now, apparently the young man really was scared, and I don't blame him. If you've never dealt with the police, you've never been arrested in your life, and all of a sudden they're pulling you into court on weapons charges and possible terrorism charges because you had a weapon on board a cruise ship. Well, they, and by the way, this wasn't the cruise staff that did it. This was security that did it from the port and the country. So it's not to put a big thing on the cruise lines doing this. But he went into court and he explained to the judge he had no idea the bullet was there. He is a member of a gun club. He has a firing range where he goes to regularly. He has no record. He has no arrest. He's a good student in school. There was no history of this guy being anything other than somebody who goes to a gun range and shoots for target practice. So he pleaded guilty because he had the bullet. They had him dead to rights that he had a bullet on a cruise ship. And the judge said he apologized to the court. And the judge accepted the apology and then dismissed his case, which was exactly the right thing to do. In fact, the prosecutor should have dismissed this case long before it ever got there, because there was no history of this guy being violent or being on social media saying that he's going to do something bad or, you know, this is this and this is this. He had a clean record from all accounts of all the reporting on this story. He had nothing to say that he could possibly be dangerous. And yeah, arrested for having a bullet. Now I know a lot of people out there say, well, as an American, you have the right to carry a gun. Okay, they weren't in America. They were in another country. And your rights as an American doesn't count. My rights as a Canadian doesn't count. If I go to North Korea and I go in with a gun, I'm likely not making it out alive. Okay? People are arrested for writing on posters and thrown in jail for 20 years in some countries. So, yeah, your rights don't matter in foreign countries. Let's get that one straight. But in all honesty, once it got to the court system and a prosecutor was looking at this, should this not have just been pleaded out to begin with? And maybe that was what did happen. Maybe the guy says, look, you just come in, you say you're sorry to the judge, you plead guilty, and we'll dismiss all the charges and everything will go. Maybe that is what happened. And I hope that's the case. Because if somebody was still looking to charge this guy with fines or throw him in, a week in jail or anything, that would have been ridiculous. Sometimes you got to use common sense. Yeah, arrested because you found a bullet. And this, by the way, will go for anything. If you have drugs on you, and it's legal in the United States and Canada, but you have drugs on you in a country that's not legal, yes, you could be arrested on the spot and thrown in jail. And that includes drugs you put in vapes, by the way, as well. Rules are different in other countries. But I have never heard of somebody being arrested on a cruise ship for having a bullet. Well, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Want to see more tips, more tricks, more travel vlogs from around the world? Hit that subscribe button. Until next time, have yourself a safe and a great vacation.